Howdy, folks, and welcome to another episode of Voices in My Head, the podcast where we talk about audiobooks, the audiobook industry, and everything related to it. And I stumbled because I've got such a pretty young lady on the screen with me today. I've got Karen Souer, editor extraordinaire, who's going to be joining me today for an interview. And we get to talk a little bit about what editors do for audiobook narrators. You know, a lot of places are looking for a completed, finished product from independent producers like myself and like many of you out there, where we record the book and they expect it to be fully edited, mastered, QC'd, and sent up, ready to go retail. If that's the case with you, you may find it a very good alternative by hiring an editor to do the work. And that's what we're going to talk with Miss Karen Souer today about. And by the way, it's her birthday today. So you can sing to her, and she'll blush for you automatically. I'll set up the app to do that. Okay. So, Karen, how's it going today?
It's going great. Excellent. I'm so glad to be here.
And we're doing like a transcontinental discussion. You're on the East Coast. I'm in Alaska, right here by Russia. And, you know, we're able to talk all the way across through this modern miracle. So, folks, if we cut out a little bit here and there, deal with it. I'll edit. So, from your perspective, you've been doing this for a while now, and you come from a family that's got some audiobook chops or some voice work chops out there. What can an independent editor offer a narrator who's out here, maybe either a fresh narrator getting into it or someone who's been experienced?
Well, an independent editor can offer really there's not really any limits in a way, because really what an independent editor can offer a narrator, regardless of their experience level, is whatever you can do with the time you would be spending editing. Whether it's narrating the next chapter, narrating the next book, preparing, marketing, emailing, spending time with your family, anything you can do with that amount of time, that's what that editor can offer you. Because, there's people that are willing to work with every kind of budget. So, if you don't have a lot of money, we get that, And anything that you would be able to do with that time, that's what we can give you. And I also think that we can offer you peace of mind, because I can't count to you the number of times when various clients of mine have told me how great it was to be able to say, bye-bye audio, you will come back and be done, and I don't have to worry about you. Because instead of having to listen to themselves, time after time after time, they can say, yay, I can just talk some more, or whatever happens to be they're doing.
Exactly. Yeah, and that was my first encounter with yourself, was I was under a time crunch, had to get a completed book out in a matter of days, and you literally saved my bacon on a month-long project. And that was pretty awesome.
That's actually often what happens is someone will only have a short amount of time and they'll say, Karen, help me.
Right. Well, it's awesome that you're able to be there. Now, we hear there's editors, there's proofers, producers, sound engineers. What's the difference between these different levels of service that are provided to narrators out there? And what can a narrator expect from someone in your specific line of work?
Well, the funny thing about all those words that you just used is everybody uses those words a little bit differently. So I'm going to tell you what I would say to that question, but keep in mind, and this is something that I've written about before on my blog, is the words that you use to mean something don't necessarily mean the same thing to someone else. Because, someone might come from, say, radio, and what they think of is based on that background. Someone else might come from sales and marketing, and so they think of something different. Someone else might be an actor from LA, and it's, again, something different. So, it's important to realize that there's a need to make things very clear. I expect ABC, and maybe it means repeating something that somebody already knows, but isn't repetition better than making a mistake?
Right.
Or having somebody not meet up with your expectations? But to answer your question, editors are, I think of it as cleanup people. You remove the retakes, you take out the mouth noise, you maybe adjust the pacing a little bit, I personally don't do a lot of processing stuff because I haven't had the time to learn all of those details, because it's such almost like an art form.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
To do it the right way, and I don't want to offer a service that I can't do well. Right. So that's what I think of. I think of editors as cleanup people. Proofing is, whether is a multifaceted thing. At the most basic level, it's making sure that you said all the words correctly. But, in a larger picture, it can look for character consistency, pronunciation errors, accent consistency, things like that. Some proofers even do research for people where they, they'll find some funky things that, get said in some book about Timbuktu or whatever.
Right.
Producers, I are more like the companies, the people who do the whole package. They usually have people working for them. And sound engineers are the people who do that whole processing. That they are the people who know the fine-tuning, the creation, the equipment, the whole package. That's how I would think of those things.
Yeah, the sound engineers to me are the ones who wore hearing protection when they played loud games when they were kids, and they could still hear all the fine-tuned stuff, unlike myself. Anyway, what kind of things do you recommend that a narrator do first when it comes before they send you their audio?
Well, the first thing we need to do is to have a conversation. The very first question I ask every single client I ever work with is, when is it due? Because for me, I'm usually working on more than one book at a time. And even if I'm not, I might get another book while your book is happening. So for me, I'm scheduling. I'm saying, okay, book A needs 3 hours today, and book 2 needs, 2 hours or whatever.
Right.
So I often recommend that people think about what do they care about in editing. Because the truth is, every one of you is different. For example, I've worked with a narrator who is very concerned about the loudness of her breaths. Mouth noise, yes, of course, but, breaths reduced the whole way through the whole book. And, that's fine. That's what she wants.
Right.
And so this particular book I'm working on with this lady, I learned how to hotkey it and make it one button, which made it so much easier. But, and some people it's like, oh, I hate mouth noise, and, some people it's, don't touch my pacing because I do this in a specific reason, for a specific way. But you wouldn't necessarily think to say that, because to you, it's natural and normal, and it is normal, but you know what I mean? Right. I need that translation of what is normal to you so that I can know how to match you and how to give you the best product. Because what I might do for someone else, it might not be what you would want me most to do. Right.
So it becomes it's more of a relationship than just here's my part of the job, here's your part of the job. Well,
I call it tuning in. I try to tune into that specific person, what they want. Because like I said, you all come from different backgrounds, you all are different people, and everybody cares about different things,
Right. I think the big word for that is synchrety.
That is a good word.
That word a little bit. So, what kind of trends do you see in the audiobook industry as far as self-published narrators, home studio work? What do you see? How has things developed as your business has gotten underway here?
Well, it's interesting because, of course there's work out there, and I see a lot of work on the polarity ends of just the, royalty share little bits and pieces that people do. And, the people who can get $400 per finished hour. I wish I got paid that much. I see a lot of both ends. And, there's stuff in the middle, but it seems to me just reading the groups, because, I read the Facebook groups and LinkedIn groups just to see what's going on in this business. And it seems like the conversations are mostly about either end. And you know, royalty share can make people money, but boy, do you have to be careful, and it's kind of rolling the dice.
Yeah.
And if you're, you know, if it was me, if I was a narrator, I would be, you know, fishing for less fish, but fishing for bigger fish.
That's really good advice right there. Yeah.
Because it's just, you know, I mean, you know, if you find the right royalty share book, you know, maybe, but it's like, I mean, really, why wouldn't you want to be making enough money to do all of the things you need to do? If you're not getting the right books,
right?
Why are you doing this?
Well, when I first started out, I did a handful of royalty share books just out of the gate about 4 or 5 years ago. And I can say that out of, I think, about 8 or 9 that I've done, one has earned out my per finished hour rate. And it's like, oh, this isn't not the game I want to play. That's a lot of hours to not get paid for. So, especially if you got to pay an editor on top of that. So
exactly. So it's unfortunate that there's not more jobs where there's like stipends and stuff to make that more reasonable. But
I've noticed that there's been a few more of those recently. But there've been a couple of pretty decent books. So far, I haven't got one of them. But, you know, there's a couple out there that have stipends or have the, now ACX does their ACX funded, where they pay you the regular union scale to record an ACX book, which I was kind of surprised when they started doing that, but it seems to be drawing people in. So that's good. What do you get most of your work from ACX narrators, or from other smaller publishing houses, or from people working under the gun with a big publishing house that expects a finished package? What do you where do you see most of your clientele coming from?
A lot of them are ACX. A lot of the big guys, as you mentioned, do it all in-house. So those people don't necessarily need me. As an example, with my father, even though he does work with some of those bigger houses, he'll often have me proof anyway, so that, you know, he can turn the book in with less corrections, even if it is one of those bigger, you know, those bigger houses.
But, you know, it's a really good feeling to get back a pickups list that fits on one page. So, yeah, having a pre-proofer is nice.
Again, it's like a peace of mind thing. For me, I would be like, why wouldn't, I mean, yes, I understand the money issue, but, you know, why wouldn't you want to look that good?
Oh, absolutely.
You know?
It's building a resume.
Very, very good way of putting it, yeah. And I mean, I love proofing. It's funny because, you know, I was the kid with the nose in the book. All my life, nose in the book, reading. I mean, to my right here, I have 3, you know, 6-foot-tall bookshelves, top to bottom, full of books.
Oh, man.
I love to read. And proofing, I read fast. So proofing is listening and reading fast and coordinating my eyes and ears. And so it's fun for me to do something I've done all my life and do fairly well. And so that's, you know, that's my favorite. When I get a proofing book, I'm like, yay!
That's cool. Now, here's a question for you. It's kind of off the topic a little bit, but on the topic you just discussed. I've heard if a person reads something, hears something, and speaks it all, you know, simultaneously, preferably, then they're able to memorize it and absorb it at a much deeper rate. So do you feel like all these books that you proof, that you've ingested them deep within you because you've spoken them, heard them, seen them, listened to them?
I do think that in some ways I remember the proofed books a little better. Because I guess, like, with editing, I get so caught up in the mechanics, you know, finding the little tiny click, or, you know, taking the retakes out, finding people's dog clicker spikes or whatever it is that they happen to do. You know, but with proofing, I get a little bit more of a chance to enjoy the book, because I'm, you know, I don't have to worry about that side of things as much. I do sometimes edit and proof at the same time, because Dad taught us that way. People are like, you could do that? I'm like, yeah, it's called Alt-Tab. I'm on a PC. I don't know what the keys would be on a Mac, but, you know, I Alt-Tab, and that's just how Dad taught us, so.
Oh,
But anyway, yeah, I can see how that would be the case, because you're really sort of all senses absorbing it, and I think I can definitely agree with that, that I feel like those books, because I have more of a chance to put my attention into the material, if that makes sense.
Right, right. Now, a question related to proofing and the editing. Have you had opportunities to, I mean, you get various different levels of expertise out there when it comes to narrating. And I know I was guilty, especially early in my career, of getting back, where I've actually had the proofer send me an email, say, dude, you got the same script I got? Because there's just too many pickups, And do you ever run into that out there? And what advice would you give to a narrator to reduce the number of pickups or mistakes that they're having to...
Well, I think that it's important to read the material before you get in the booth at all. I think it's important to... I know that it can be really hard with some of the turnarounds, but I think it's really important to as much as you can, to get to chew on the material first, because, eyes skip. When you're reading, eyes skip. And if the more that happens, eyes skip, eyes transpose, and this is especially problematic with some of those self-published books that are maybe a little bit less well prose edited,
right?
Because sometimes your brain will put it in the word that's actually supposed to be there instead of whatever the person wrote. So it's sometimes. Sometimes that's something to keep in mind. And also, slow down a little. Because it's easy. I'm not a coach. Please understand. I'm not a coach. But it's easy to get going and to get churning and to not realize how fast you're going. And the faster you talk, the easier it is to stumble and say, oh, crap. So maybe just slow down a little and get a chance to chew on the material and really feel like you can get the voice inside, That's what I would say. And yeah, I have had, I've had to help some people through the process a little bit, because people want to do this. People love to tell stories, as my dad would say, Bob Souer, storyteller. Right. But people love to tell stories, and it's always in a way a blessing for me, because I get to make someone's journey a little bit easier. Because no matter who it is that I'm working with, I always think this could be the next Melissa Disney. Yeah, I don't know where someone's going to go. Yeah. I don't know what someone's going to do. And I try to put good stuff out there, in everything I do, in personal life and in work life. Not always perfect, but, I never know who's going to be the next Melissa Disney, who's going to be the next Mark Grau or Joe Cipriano or whomever, Right. So I like to try to give people a good experience, and to try to give them a helping hand up, point them to resources, connect them with people if I can,
Excellent. Excellent. So here's the final question that we've got here. Anytime I do an interview with people, I like to end with a question that gives us some insight deep into your personality. And so for this question, if you were abducted by aliens, what 2 audiobooks that you've worked with would you want to take with you that you felt best represented the human race on Earth to an alien species who may or may not be considering invading the planet?
Well, I actually thought about this, because I was like, I've worked on a lot of books. Which ones would I pick? Because, there's pretty wide topic gamut here, from, some stuff that would make a lady blush to some stuff about psychology and the Bible and religion. I think the 2 that I would pick, there was a book, I can't remember who I can't remember who the narrator was, and I feel really bad about that, because he was a good guy. It's called Holmes on the Range, and the idea is that, the Sherlock Holmes stories and the Wild West overlapped in a time period, And this guy who wrote Westerns wanted to write a Holmes story, but that wasn't his thing. You know, that wasn't his settings.
Right.
So he took a Western story where these two cowboys find a Sherlock Holmes magazine, and they read the pulp magazine stories, and they apply the Sherlock Holmes methods to things that happen out in the Wild West, like people getting shot or, you know, things getting stolen, stuff like that.
Right.
And they call it, like, Holmesifying, and, you know, they go deducifying, and it's just, it was so funny. I spent the whole book laughing, and there's not a lot of books that do that for me.
You know, I think I actually auditioned for that and didn't get it. Wasn't me that narrated it, but I distinctly remember that plot line. I thought, man, this would be cool, but I'm from Alaska, not Oklahoma, and just couldn't hit it spot on. So,
I think it was Barry Campbell. I think he moved across the country, so anyway, good guy, good book. Anyway,
excellent.
But yeah, it was so funny, and I loved the twist to it, the fact that it was just an unusual setting, and the author had taken this book and adapted, you know, two things that you normally wouldn't think of putting together, and made it hilarious and engaging and interesting. And I think humor is one of the best things about the human species.
Right.
Because, you know, you can, regardless of what you're going through in your life, laughing, enjoying your humor makes it better. And I think that, you know, it's hard to do sometimes, but I think it's important to try to find the lighter side of things and maybe laugh at yourself. I mean, I know a lot of people who take themselves a little too seriously.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Me included. Me included. But that book, for one, because like I said, it was laugh out loud funny, which is, because normally I might smile a little, but I'm not
guffawing,
gales of laughter in front of my computer. And the second one, narrated by Randy Kay, and it was called the Narcissism Epidemic. And the reason why I picked this one is because everybody got told as a kid, you know, you need to feel good about yourself. You need to have self-esteem. And, you know, it's important to love yourself before you can love others. And I'm not going to completely try to explain their reasoning, because their reasoning is all doctors and fancy, and I'm not that smart. But basically what they showed through the course of the book was, you know, leaving aside the healthy, you know, you think you're an okay person kind of thing, too much self-esteem leads to narcissism.
Yes.
Is the parallel that they drew.
Right.
And I never would have thought that. It changed the way that I looked at a lot of things. Because, you know, suddenly these behaviors about others, about, you know, people in my life that have puzzled me, and I'm like, wait, you know, they think that they're special and unique, and special and unique people get to be treated differently than everybody else. That's narcissism.
Right.
You know, and, you know, I think that it's a fascinating trend within our culture itself. Because, you know, you have a bunch of these special, unique snowflakes who want to get treated differently than everybody else. And, you know, I mean, that's why, well, you know, I don't want to go too into it, but I think that it's, the reason that I would pick this book is because I believe that it can show that no matter how much we screw up as a species, we can also learn and improve.
Very good. That's a deep, well-thought-out answer. I'm going to have to give that one extra check marks and send you a lollipop in the mail. Because that was...
Well, thank you.
Well,
it might be a little cold by the time it got here.
Might be. So here we have, folks, Karen Souer, and she's an awesome editor. She's a great individual, great person, and from you know, within a family that, I mean, she's grown up around the industry, around the voice work industry with her dad, Bob Souer, and you know, it's great to see someone spin off into their own ventures and really take off. So, Karen, what is your website that we can share with folks so they can get a hold of you if they need to hire you for their services?
You can just Google my name, Karen Souer, and it's karensouer.com.
Okay.
My name is, the first thing that comes up is my site, and various links to it. So
isn't that nice to be on top of the list?
You know, I am very glad to have a slightly unusually spelled last name.
Right.
Because that's what makes it work. If I had the standard spelling, Sauer, I'm sure I would be much lower.
It could be, yeah. Wow. Well, thank you very much for chatting with me, and you know, I wish you the best in your career. And once again, a happy birthday to you.
Thank
And
you.
God bless. Thanks.
Thanks so much for having me.